This is the Freeheel Life Podcast, episode number 85. I'm your host, Josh Madsen, coming at you from the Freeheel Life shop in Salt Lake City, Utah. And can you believe it is July already, everybody? Woo! That's crazy. I can't believe how fast the summer is going. And it's those bittersweet moments, right? Where like you kind of want it to go faster, you kind of don't. You don't really know. One day you're stoked, then you want to go skiing. It's hard to keep track of the emotions, my friends. But the fact is, it's July, and that means only a couple more months until we're dropping knees again. So start doing your exercises and your stretches and all the crazy stuff you've come up with to make you the most badass telemarketer on the planet. I know we are. So today's simple intro is there's no newsroom and notes. So we're just going to kind of jump right into this and get it going so that you can rev up your Monday morning with total stoke. 100% stoke. So, my guest today, he is one of the most influential free ride telemark skiers and athletes to ever live, in my opinion. Over the course of the last 20 years, he's appeared in nearly every telemark production that has ever existed. You've probably seen him in the movies. He's pushed the limits of what can be done on telemark equipment, both in the backcountry and in the park. And in the most recent years, he started releasing some of the only telemark short films that are available on the internet in a time where there's not really many telemark films going on. And he just recently announced that he'll be putting out his latest project, Future Freeheel 2, which is a compilation of his best telemark outings of the past season. It is chock full of some of the best backcountry lines, mini golf style skiing and tricks, and lots of powder. He also is featured in Telemark Colorado's upcoming short film, Why Not? And both will be released this coming fall and will premiere in various locations and online. I'm so stoked to welcome back to the podcast my good friend and all-around badass, Ty Dayberry. What up, Dayberry? How's it going, brother?
Good, Josh. How are you, buddy?
Dude, stoked. It's good to talk to you. We were just saying, I was just telling you that I looked it up. You were episode 21. This is, I think, like episode 80 something. So we're rolling along. We're rolling along. How you been, man? Are you out in Tahoe right now?
Yeah, I'm doing very well. Started up my Forest Service season about 2 months ago and already been to at least one fire here in the basin and been building a boardwalk and doing trail work and stuff like that. Yeah. So, I always forget fire season for you is usually super hectic, I'm sure, especially These days, I feel like we just had some massive ones down here, and it was like, I think they actually brought a California crew out for this one, just because, I don't know, I guess us Utah firefighters can't handle. I think it was a pretty remote area, and they needed some more technical, like hotshot style guys or something like that. Well, yeah, I mean, I'm in Region 5, and there's a ton of shot crews out here, and they start up, end of April, and all of a sudden, they call it a preparedness level, which is on like a scale of 1 to 5, and we're already at preparedness level 4, which means like how many resources we have dispatched across the nation for fire, mainly wildland response, but anything that's like a natural disaster, which these days, because of climate change, seems to be wildfires in the West.
Yeah. You guys are, how many years have you've been doing that for a long time, haven't you?
Yeah. So I've been working for the Forest Service here in the Lake Tahoe Basin for, I think this is my 13th season now.
Whoa.
Which is pretty crazy. Yeah. No. So I got into like the fire aspect of it because they always need an extra hand with that because some of these, like last year, there was a fire in California that turned into 1 million acres.
Wow.
And that's like pretty unheard of. That was like the biggest fire we've ever had in the state. So they need help all the time. And, it's unfortunate, but like it's good money because you're working like 16-hour days, 2 weeks in a row plus, and it adds up. But yeah, I like to help out where I can, you know?
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. Like the whole fire thing blows me away because it's like it's such an interesting like science to it. How you guys work up there, you know, like
Totally.
the like how you pre-burn. I don't know the terminology, but like how you guys is it back burning? Is that like what it's called?
Yeah, so that's a technique on like, you know, probably more like a bigger fire that is train driven, wind driven. You know, there's a lot of different aspects like you're saying, you know, firefighters, they're kind of meteorologists themselves. I just got my type 1 firefighter, so it takes a little bit of training. It takes a few years, and since I'm seasonal, I'm not there all the time. So
yeah.
But anyways, what that means is like, you know, I've put the years in and have a little bit more understanding than beginning firefighters. Let's put it that way.
They give you a chainsaw. I saw that like over the last couple of years. I was like, man, he's like chopping massive trees down. I'm like, that looks so dangerous.
It can be. I mean, it's just like teleskiing, dude. Like, I mean, everything is with, you know, calculated risk, and everybody has a different tolerance for that. And, you know, with education and experience and just like putting safety first, all that stuff, you know, is it's kind of second nature for me, I guess. But I've been cutting trees for a while too. Like that was before fire, so like that's going on like 10 seasons of being a faller now. So
you're a crack at it, man. You got it dialed in by this point.
I'm trying to.
That's awesome. Well, how was the winter out in Tahoe? I don't know if I really. It's been such a weird couple years. I haven't paid attention as much as I used to some of the other areas. But did you guys end up having a pretty good snow year out there?
Yeah, dude. I mean, it's all user based, right? I mean, because of COVID, then like some of the restrictions at the ski resorts, it was chaotic. So like a resort day on a POW day would be pretty miserable for some people unless you kind of know where you're going. But I mean, yeah, it's not like Utah where our snowpack like stays unstable for like weeks on end. Like it literally takes a few days to set up, and you could go out there and get on a little bit more advanced terrain, you know. So I have a snowmobile and I made the most of it. I've definitely hit up my home resorts here at Tahoe a bit, and that was fun, but like I avoided the resorts altogether and just hit backcountry all season.
Yeah. Are you guys are you seeing like a super increase just with people coming up from the Bay Area and stuff, or people, dude, cuz like I thought you guys all moved here to Utah, but apparently not, because
no. I mean, like I saw your guys' friend Kaylin. Well, actually, she's moving from Utah, but she's like rad alpine skier girl from like Alta and stuff. But I met her at Sierra, and like, yeah, she cruised out here for like the 10-foot POW dump that we got. We got one solid Sierra storm out of this season, and I mean like over 5 feet of snow, you know. So we had friends coming out from Utah. I had a bunch of friends go out to Utah also, but I didn't make it just because, you know, I got the snow machine, and like any little refresher that we get, like whether it's 6 inches or a foot, like it's game time out at my zone, you know.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it is. But it's if people haven't been to Tahoe for a big storm, it's really. Especially if you're from Colorado, Utah. I mean, obviously not from the West or even the U.S. I mean, it's like a really unique place. Like, remember that time we all hauled ass out there because we were like, oh, we're gonna hit this huge storm, and we came to your house, and then we tried to go hike that backcountry zone, dude, and it was so deep, like it was like
you can't ski.
I remember we like set a skin track backwards, and it was like, we might have even talked about it on the other podcast, but I always remember that. I was like, we literally drove like, you know, it was the most horrendous storm on I-80. We get there and we're just like, this is going to be so sick. And then we got up there and like, we were worried. I think we had we were trying to even like be careful because guys were going off little rocks and stuff, and like we couldn't get to them. They were like getting like,
it's called submersion.
Yeah, totally, dude. They were like post holing at the base. Like if the landing wasn't right or it wasn't steep enough, it was like literally the guy was like gonna suffocate, and then you're all.
It was unsafe. Yeah. Totally.
Yeah. So it's crazy seeing that.
Yeah, I mean, like, those days aren't the days that you really go out and film. Those are the days that you kind of hunker down and wait for the snowpack to settle a little bit, just because, like you said, it's exhausting for one, traveling in that much snow, and then two, it's not really safe because you can't keep accountability of everybody, and just the littlest error, next thing you know, you hot tub and like the whole surrounding area is like collapsing on you. And like the ski patrollers at Sierra Tahoe, my home resort that's just in my backyard, they always post that on those huge days that, well, one, you got to have like the resort open, like on those days you got to go up the hill, and they do avalanche control, and usually we can't even open resorts on days like that. But we had one of those days, to get back to your original question. We had one of those days, like I want to say like late January, early February. And it was a lot. That kind of set our base for the rest of the year and made it so that I could go out there and get in the backcountry and film this movie,
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. Well, I'm glad you guys got some good snow. That's good to hear, because I know it's been hit or miss over the last 10 years. You'll have like a couple good years, and then it's like not as good. But
totally.
Like you said, it comes in and you guys get a base instantly. I'm always jealous of that, because it's like, all right, it hasn't snowed in Tahoe for like months, and then all of a sudden you guys are like, all right, cool, it's on 6 feet.
Yeah,
nice.
It's nuts.
Yeah, so that's cool, man.
Yeah, so I guess like just to like kind of recap on what the winter was like in Tahoe, it was hit or miss. We were kind of looking a little droughty. In all honesty, like we got like 70% of average of snowpack, but I guess there's a couple different measurements with that, because like it came in like colder than normal, like it did. We get rain in the wintertime, and that sucks, but then it'll come in cold right after that. But we didn't get really many high temp days when it did precip, so that was kind of rare. And I got a couple like similar to Utah or like Japan cold smoke pow days, and got my buddies out there and filmed, and it's all in the film, and it's gonna be pretty rad.
No, I love that. What I'm curious, tell people like what kind of snow machines are you guys using out there? I mean, like what's your whole setup? I obviously you're skinning sometimes, but to get out to these zones, you guys are kind of using that to shuttle out and then kind of hike from there, right?
Right. So like I like to, as the best I can, split up my winter into thirds, right? Like I go to my home resort on those deeper pow days, or if it's a spring slushy day, and that's a third of my season, and then another third is touring, and then another third ends up being snowmobiling and snow access, and sometimes I'll also tour from my sled, but doesn't always end up like that, but that's how I try to like align my winter, because like I'll have goals of like bagging a peak, and then getting out on the sled and then going to the resort. So I guess like my favorite thing about it is that with the snow machine, you can get like out there, keep it a small crew, and then like I get to the top of the hill by shuttling with your friend on the other side of the sled, and then skiing back down to your sled, and then getting a shuttle back up. It's like a magic carpet ride, but most physically exhausting magic carpet ride of your life.
Yeah, if people haven't, I mean, because what kind of sled do you have? I'm curious.
Yeah, I got a Skidoo 850 E-Tech. It's the 2007. That's when I got it, and that was the year that they came out with that Gen 4. But my track's a 165 inch, and with 3-inch paddles, and the length of the track basically makes it so that you have more surface area and you're floating on the POW a little bit higher. So like the biggest one Skidoo makes that I'm aware of is like a 175, and that thing looks like a mini Sherman tank, dude. Like the thing's so burly. Like they're gnarly, man. Like everybody asks, and some people are kind of inquisitive and they want to get into it, and I tell them, I'm like, this sport is like literally harder than surfing to learn. The learning curve is so steep, and the terrain that you like, any average person can go on the flats and get out to like the gnarliest terrain and then be completely screwed once they're there because they don't have the skills to navigate the backcountry on a snow machine. And you're only as strong as pretty much the weakest person that you're with, you know? So like you got to keep all those factors in the back of your mind. But yeah, like my sled is definitely one of the top of the lines in terms of like backcountry access and doing the specific things that we're doing, you know?
Yeah, no, those things are crazy. And I mean, I have pretty limited experience on those, but I can attest it's not like you just hop on, like you said, riding on a flat, you know, trail or something is completely different than trying to turn the thing or how to weight it or snow depth, or, you know, you auger in and the next thing, you know, or something could break, you know, like there's so many things that could happen. And I think that's why I was always like, you know, especially back when you got yours, I remember everyone was like, we got to get sleds. And I'm like, I can't even afford that. Like if it breaks, you know?
Yeah, dude, I know. And so like, I guess it goes back to like going out on fire rolls and working overtime and just trying to put in as much work as I can. And like, that was my priority, right? Cause like the guy that got me into it, he's a guide. Well, he lives here in Tahoe. He's a really interesting dude that should probably talk to you one day on your podcast. But Justin Bafoo's the man. He used to travel with the Grateful Dead, and like he's got like a screen printing company, and he used to print tie-dye shirts for the Grateful Dead. And then Jerry passed away, and so he kind of like, I don't know the whole story there, but he had his family and raised his two awesome daughters here in Tahoe, and like now he's getting them into snow machining because they're like the right age to get out there. And he's the one who like shuttled me up there nuts to butt as a little kid, and like, you gotta go get a sled, and just like hassled me to, you know, to go do it because it's the shit, you know, like it's the way that you get out there and like in the Sierras at least. So I don't know, like ever since Justin brought me out, he kind of flipped the switch in my head. And I was in college and I was the same way. I was like, I can't afford this. Like I am commuting to the North Shore from South Lake, which is pretty far. I'm putting all my money in these college classes so that I could advance my career at the Forest Service. And hopefully once I graduate, I can make it happen. And, you know, you just put your head down and it happens. I had to get a beater sled first, but, yeah, I wrapped that. I recommend that because like I wrapped that thing up in a few trees and like in a huge block of ice one time. Oh yeah, it's gnarly.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I messed that sled up, and then I'm like, all right, this is my third or fourth year, and the thing actually, the top end blew up like mid-season on like the last really big winter we had, and yeah, I was like, screw it, I'm just gonna get the top of the line sled. I'm there. I'm ready to do it. So yeah.
I think having the right tool. I think I've learned that as I've gotten older that tools of any kind are not the things to skimp on because you're just going to cause yourself a lot more headache. And it seems like a good idea to, I'm going to save some money. I'll get the used thing. And, you know, for some things that works, you know, like, yeah, you get a used pair of skis and be fine. But, you know, when you're talking like tools to make things or tools to access things like you're talking about, I mean, that's what a sled is, man. It's like, for me, it's a tool to access the backcountry and get to some rad skiing access that nobody else is really doing except for my close group of friends. And yeah, it's opened up a lot of doors, and you know, it's kind of one of those things you evolve into, and it's rad. Like I'm definitely like one of the few tele skiers out there who has a sled, and you know, the whole kind of eco-conscious paradigm I'm all about, but
in reality, I'm getting like 70 miles a gallon plus, like in deep snow.
Yeah.
Like those things rip. And I mean, as much energy as it takes to power all the ski resorts and for you to go drive your car to access that, like I just, that's kind of like a weighted conversation, but I've never been one to like really dictate what I'm doing because of what other people think I should be doing, I guess.
No, for sure, man. Yeah, and that makes sense, and especially like is resorts. It's just different skiing too. I mean, you can't do what you're doing in a resort situation, and yeah, I know you've got some zones out there. I just well, I think that kind of leads us into like, you kind of you hinted at the new movie. That's why I wanted to get you on to sort of talk a little bit about that, and
right.
And I know you've got all these funky. I mean, so you sent me a little rough cut, and just looking at that, I'm like, where? I don't know that area that well, but I'm also like, this is insane. Like the terrain that's in the movie, I'm like, oh my god, like where are you guys? Which I don't expect you to tell anybody, so that's good. But
no, that's fine.
No, but I'm so give us a little background before we talk about the new flick. Give us a little background. So this one's called Future Freeheel 2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When was it? Yeah, just catch people up. Like there was one before this, obviously. When did that come out? And then kind of just the quick synopsis of what you've put out between then.
Cool. Yeah. So Future Freeheel, the original one, it wasn't even intended to be a part one, but Future Freeheel came out like 5 years ago, and it was pretty much like a super grassroots, low-key project that I wanted to do with my winter to just showcase what new school telemark skiing really looked like. And at the time, I was heading out to Utah and hanging out with you guys quite a bit, and Eric and Andreas were coming in and out of the Freeheel Life shop and hanging out, and they would travel internationally and come to the tele comps out in Colorado, or come kick it. So we were actually skiing quite a bit then, and my original goal was to be able to film with both those guys and like a few other tele skiers. So I was doing the big mountain comps, and I was kind of putting the feelers out and asking guys like Jake and Paul and couple other, really top of the tier tele skiers like Andreas for park and Eric for backcountry and big mountain. And, out of all of that, it was Eric and Andreas who sent me the footage that they got from their season. And, I compiled that, even though some of it was pretty good quality and some of it wasn't like the quality that I was shooting for. But I was able to get my buddy Daniel Vega, who's a snowboarder, but who's also rad, another story. But he teamed up with me and, filmed basically my whole season, him and my other buddy Brian Walker. They filmed my whole season. I was able to make like a 5-minute segment and have that be the ender. And, I didn't think too much about it. Just wanted to put tele skiing out to the world and be like, hey, this is what this looks like, because there was kind of a void there at the time for freeheel movies. And man, like I guess people are stoked because like the YouTube link alone, like to this day, it's got like, I don't know, like 150,000 views or something. Like I couldn't believe it. I teamed up with my buddy Josh Dyack, who rides for Solomon. He's an alpine skier. He's one of the best in the world for big mountain.
He's a rad.
Oh
skier.
Yeah, you should follow his account if you don't already. But he's badass. But yeah, he was like, "Yo, what's up? You got the film?" And we just loosely had this film premiere planned out to raise money for the Sierra Avalanche Center, which is like our Avi forecaster here. And they're a nonprofit, and so they could use all the help they get to get their forecasters out there every day to keep people safe. And it was just a winning combo, like my buddies that I went to high school with, they opened up a new brewery. So we linked up with them. And I think the capacity for their building no, they can't get in trouble, but it was well beyond the capacity of what showed up, let's just put it that way.
Yeah, you don't want to talk too in depth to the fire buddies out there.
Yeah, exactly. The fire marshal might get me in trouble. No, it was insane, dude. Like I couldn't believe like how many people showed up to this thing. It was nuts. So that was Future Freeheel 1. I mean, like not that I'm looking from the Alpine world for validation, but like it was there, like the Alpine skiers were stoked. Like it was getting posted on like Free Skier and like all these other outlets, right? And so it just made it easy for me to go out and make the next couple of films that most of you have probably seen. And here we are, Future Freeheel 2. This is what I'm doing.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Yeah, and there's a couple other up there. Our Family, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, why am I blanking on the other one? Talk to me. There was one other one.
A Telemark Tale.
Telemark Tale. That's what I was thinking of. Yep. Yeah. So Future Free. I mean, so is this? Like you said, and I think a lot of things like, we've done them and maybe you don't have like some master plan when you put, you call it Future Freeheel and then you don't have some master plan like I'm going to do like 10 sequels to this or something. But so is this one only you, or does it have other Telemark skiers or other skiers, snowboarders? Is it a mix? Like what's the layout you're shooting for on this one?
Right. So, it's just me in Future Freeheel Part 2, which is kind of what I really wanted to go for. It just made sense from like a coordination standpoint. Basically, it's awesome to link up with other and get out there, but like coordinating stuff like this, as like a business owner, it's so hard to do.
As you're talking, I'm like, you're so smart.
Exactly, dude.
I mean, it's like, especially film shoots, dude, because people that have never even tried to do it, like, I mean, even getting 3 people at the same time and the weather and a camera and multiple angles and then organizing the footage. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. So I think that's it's smart. It seems like that's more just with the internet too, man. It's like, it's not like back in the day when you had to make a movie, you had to get a DVD printed, you had to, get all these people. It's like you can kind of do your own thing and like you said, it's a personal project, and instead of just being like an edit too, it's got more of a movie vibe to it, but it's it's focused on what you're shooting for.
Absolutely. Yeah. No. So I mean, I love collabing with other people and feeding off of other people's energy in the backcountry and just watching different telemark skiers get after it. But like I said, it's just hard to get the whole gang together and make that a reality. It comes off well when it does, but sometimes, more often than not, like the coordination part, like you can get skunked with the weather. Whereas like when I'm by myself, I could look out my front window and be like, oh, it's lingering clouds and it is dumping out at my zone. Like I'm not going to be able to go make anything happen. I'm just going to go soul ski at the resort, So like I can make those decisions on the fly. Yeah. And so I think that like really attributed to like the success of creating this film, because like I could put out lofty goals all day and say like, oh, my target originally was like a 5 to 8 minute like longer edit, and this is looking to be more like 12 to 15 minutes long. So right, it's crazy, like all the usable footage that I was able to stack. Shout out to my homie Will Eichelberger and Brian Walker. Like those 2 guys were down every single time that I hit them up to go film and make things happen. And all that really honestly came to be because I had some core support from my sponsors, 22 Designs, and then Colorado boys helped out, and K2 Skis helped out a lot. So honestly, shout out to them for making it a reality, because like those guys have camera gear and they have to pay for that somehow. You know, it can't just be like, hey bro, point the lens at me. Oh, it's all good. You know, I'll throw you some product. It's like, no, these guys are pros and they need to get paid for what they're doing, you know? So
for sure.
Sponsors realize that, even though it's grassroots and kind of like I don't want to sell myself short, but it is like a lower budget kind of thing compared to like something like Matchstick Films or like TGR are doing. But
yeah, dude, and yeah, don't cut yourself short, because even watching the rough cut, and you know, the first thing I'm thinking is, wow, how far have we come where you have access to drones, you know, GoPros, everything's super high quality, you know, it's fairly compact, you know, so you can get it out to places. And you know, in the editing, it's just, I mean, and that's what I always say with you too, is you're the one thing that's really cool for me to watch is you putting stuff out now in 2021. And you know, like we talked about in the first podcast, you know, I met you when you were probably 13, 14 years old, you know, and yeah, and you're one of the few guys that actually has shot a movie on 16 millimeter. You've been through all the digital stuff. And I mean, I just think about the quality that you're putting out, you know, now it's just like mind blowing to me, you know, because you don't actually have to have a massive movie crew or anything like that. So yeah, it's really cool, man. And so I guess that kind of, so, I mean, you kind of alluded to like what the objective is, you know, it sounds like it's part, you know, like you want to capture what you're doing, how you're progressing, what you're interested in terms of skiing. Like what's your hope for putting this thing out, you know, to the public? You know, I mean, is it kind of the same as you had with the original Future Freeheel and the other projects, is just inspire people? Or I mean, is there like an end goal, you know, so to speak?
Well, I mean, like, I guess there's two parts of that, right? Because like all of us are individuals and we all have to look out for ourselves, right? Like ideally, like I hope I get on some like bigger action sport radar, you know, like TGR or somebody, so like I could continually go out and like chasing these hopes and dreams of like getting on like the big screen on like a bigger platform, right? Because like, let's be real, dude, like everybody wants to be famous in some way. Like at least for me, that's how I've always felt with skiing. I'm not gonna lie, dude. Like that's why I keep putting up GoPro shots every other day in the winter time, so that people know like, hey, I'm still killing it out here, dude.
Yeah, you want some I think that's okay to say though. I know it sounds probably weird when you say it to yourself, but it's, you know, it's cool to be recognized for, I mean, you put in a lot of hard work, dude, and a lot of years, you know, and people might just come across one thing you put up and they're like, you know, they don't realize there's literally like almost 20 years of you doing this. I mean,
right.
That's a long time, dude. I mean, your entire adult life and adolescent life too, you know, like it's cool, man. So yeah, you deserve it. I think that's cool. So you want to get on some bigger screens and
I kind of do, man. I mean, like honestly, like this last year, TGR, like shout out to those guys, because like they're multi-sport. Like they started out with alpine skiing, but like they're showcasing a lot of cool stuff out there, like from like, you know, the crazy stuff that's going down in Maui with like Lenny and like catching like 50 feet of air out of like a huge wave with like these modified kites. Like that's rad, dude. Like same with heli skiing. So I think it's a timing thing, right? Like everything has a cadence to it. So putting this film out at the right time might eventually open up some doors further down the road, right?
For sure.
So individually, like that's the goal right there, is to like get after it and showcase what I'm doing as a tele skier. And then the other part of it is that, hey, like future freeheel, future tele skiers, young tele skiers, like this is what the ceiling is looking like right now. Because like, I mean, let's be real. Like if there's other freeheel skiers out there doing stuff, like I've seen it all on the Instagram, on the internet. Like, well, let's see it, you know, like
Yep.
hopefully this inspires other people to go out and try dub flips in the backcountry and try skiing big, fast lines as fluid as possible, you know? So
No,
I don't know.
no. I think it's great, dude. And I think you said something really important is as an individual athlete, the goal should be, you know, to expose as many people as possible. You know what I mean? Like that's that, you know, essentially that's your job, you know, like you're going out, you're hoping to entertain people, you're hoping to expose people that might not know what telemark skiing is. So from the individual perspective, and I think I get in that talk a lot with people because, you know, I'm the telemark guy, you know, like I want to push telemark, but I also 100% agree with you that when you have opportunities to get outside of our bubble, it's incredibly important. I don't, you know, like I always say, I don't think the alpine world is there to save us by any means, you know, like,
No.
I, you know, cause you know, my whole thing is like pushing our own, you know, trying to push our own thing. I mean, that's what Freeheel Life's about, but I love what you're trying to do and I actually think it's cool that the way you're doing it, because again, you're not having to worry about an entire group, you know, like a whole, that's when it gets tricky. Right. And, you know, you're able to maneuver and flow with whatever comes along. You know, back in the day, it was like I just had a Ben Dolence on
Oh, nice.
the podcast, and I mean these guys were in like Warren Miller films, you know, and a lot of these other things, and doing like, you know, Mancini was doing like Nature Valley granola bar commercials and stuff, and I mean I think those are incredible, and you're setting the bar. All I can say is it makes me laugh a little bit because you've been around so long and you've been the one setting the bar for so long that it's kind of funny. I'm actually curious your take on this, because you're doing stuff and continue to progress, and it kind of makes me wonder if sometimes you bump into young kids and, you know, they're like thinking they're the first to do something. And I'm like, they need to go watch Ty's stuff. Cause literally Ty did that like 20 years ago or 15 years ago. I mean, do you ever feel like that? Like there's almost like a amnesia that happens with people, you know, with teleskiers. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Well, it's like, I mean, like I hate to say it, but it's like big fish in a small pond. I felt like that like all the time riding at Sierra, and like, I was competing against all the alpine skiers. So for a while there, like I wasn't even like trying to think about teleskiing at all. I'm like, what are the other alpine skiers doing at my local resort and like up on the North Shore at Squaw? And what are those guys doing? Because I was strictly slopestyle for a long time there. So like with the trick things, like, I know that feeling a lot. But I don't know, man. Like, I hope people feel like they're doing something brand new on teleskis, honestly. Like, I hope that they feel unique and, like, they're getting after it. Like, there's no ego there at all for me, because, like an old team manager used to tell me, he's like, just let the skiing do the talking. And, like, that's it. I've really tried to come back to that in recent years as I get older and try to, you know, not be as egotistic as I might have been back in the day, you know, because like that's the whole thing with like an individual sport. You gotta have flair, you gotta come off like you're the sickest shit out there, right? So
for sure.
Seriously, I mean, like like especially with competitions, because like you got 3 judges who are all salty, old, you know, has been the baddest dudes at the resort in that booth, and they're eyeing up all the young guys who think they're the next best thing. And it's like, how do you come off like that? So even in filming, you know, because like everybody's competing for travel budget and, you know, film budget, photo incentive, and like, you know, there's a lot of pro athletes out there, but there are not that many who are actually like making a winner out of it, getting paid and doing it well, like
so few. And even in the heydays, dude. And
seriously,
I always try to get that across to people, and better than anybody. It's like, it's not what it looks like for most people.
No. And let's be real. I mean, like with COVID and like tele skiing, like I'm seriously so surprised that I got budget for this film, Josh. Like I was like, really? You're stoked on this? Like I felt like a little kid again, talking to some of my sponsors, like, yeah, you're going to hook it up. Like, that's sick, like,
yeah,
hell yeah, they're going to hook it up. Cause it's sick. Cause like, like you said, we've been putting in the hard work for like 15 plus years, like literally filming and photo specific hard work.
Yeah.
Never mind like the competition stuff. Cause, let's be real. Like I was good at competing, but like not the best. Like I didn't podium every single time. Like I'd blow up. I was either like top 3 or dead last place.
Death or glory style.
Kind of. Yeah, sometimes for sure. But it's a funny game, man. Like it is what you make of it, really. And that's how I've always tried to live like every aspect of my life, It's all about perception, and if you have a bad attitude about it, and then that's how it's gonna come off, But if you're like, take it for what it is, be humble, and like put in hard work, and be stoked when you get results, and be thankful for that, like that perpetuates.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I love that perspective, man, and I think that's what I was trying to get at is having this on the internet and people being able to find it like your other stuff. For me, being like the guy that gravitates to the history of stuff, it's like I love that a lot of this stuff is available for people to see now. I'm kind of bummed that a lot of the older stuff's not online, because even though, you've obviously become, like specifically you've become a greater skier, because obviously time goes by, you mature, you learn things. I like seeing those benchmarks, and my hope is like, maybe this is the old man in me, but I always hope that young people dig into it a little bit further so it doesn't disappear. So then they're like, oh, here's the benchmark at this point, and that happened, and that's where it kind of built off of. So
no, totally. You know what that reminds me of is like snowboarding in the 90s,
Yep.
Like, and I think because I had a conversation with the global marketing manager of K2 kind of recently, and he's like, yeah, man, like that is super iconic. And that's exactly what you're talking about, is like those benchmarks of like, hey, like Pat Moore hit this same jump and did a cab 9 20 years ago here in South Lake at the same zone that I'm going to. And like, literally those are the vibes that I was feeding off of this year. Cause like, there's some old dog South Lakers that like, I don't know if everybody knows the snowboarding world, but like Sean Palmer went to the same high school as me.
Love Sean Palmer, my favorite snowboarder ever.
Yeah, dude, exactly. Right. So like, and he's got some taboos and like whatever, he did what he wanted, and like
that guy did not give a fuck, dude. That guy was
shit.
No, like if you can ever if you ever bump into that guy, tell him I want to do that clown graphic on some skis, dude.
I don't. They don't give a shit. You could probably do it. You have my permission.
That guy is
so Boozy the Clown, dude. So like, you got to follow Whiskey on Instagram.
Oh, is Whiskey Film still around?
No, but like somebody got a hold of him and put him up on Instagram, and like the whole like full segments and the whole movies are on this one Instagram account. I follow him, so you can.
Oh, dude!
On my IG.
See that's the stuff I vibe on too, because the energy, the energy was so rad back then, because it was just loose, dude, and like there wasn't all this corporate, BS, and like and like I'm a businessman, like I get it. You gotta, businesses evolve and change, but there is I agree. There's something incredibly special about that era, and like if you go back and watch Whiskey films from the 90s. I mean, that was when I was, in high school and stuff. And I wasn't a snowboarder, but that's what I watched, because I was like, this is insane. These guys are like lighting stuff on fire, and the jumps, and I mean, it's just rad. So that's cool.
Oh yeah. No, yeah. So like, I was definitely watching a handful of whiskey films this winter, and like, oh yeah, no, I roll past that spot all the time. And like my crew, I usually go out with snowboarders when we snowmo. So like those guys, like, and some of those guys are older than me, and I'm getting up there in terms of like pro skier age. I'm 33, and like I go out with like these 35, 36-year-old snowboarders that like grew up around here. They're like, oh yeah, we're going to the Dirksen Rock, and the Andreas Rock is right there. And like Andreas Vig was gold medalist, X Games snowboarder that got cover shots here in South Lake at the same zones we're going to. And it's just cool because and I was telling this to the K2 guy too. I'm like, yeah, dude, no skier crews are coming out here because they don't know where to go really, except for like me and Josh. And Josh Dyack and I aren't going to show anybody our spots really, unless it's like one of a close friends and they know not to like give it up, because that's kind of how it goes. Canada is like the craziest for that kind of stuff. Like there's infinite sled access terrain up there. And Sammy Carlson, he just flat out moved there and like has his own little zone that some loc dog showed him, and just will never give it up to anybody else like that. It's even more sacred. I wouldn't say more sacred, but it's just as sacred as like surf zones. It's not like you're not going to run into people because they're not going to know how to get there. Yeah, it's not like you're going to have to like bully some people out of your local zone or anything, because you're the only one there.
Yeah, no, I love hearing that you're feeding off that old stuff, because I think that's it's just cool, because I know, and for those of you out there that have not, maybe you weren't around, you weren't old enough, or you're just interested in digging into some of that old 90s snowboard stuff, like the spirit of it is just like, I get chills just talking about it, because I'm like, I know exactly what you're talking about, and that's what's cool about you, like being from Tahoe too, man. I mean, you guys have such a rich history of people, both North and South Lake, but I mean South Lake, all the way back to Plake, and
Plake had, like Palmer and Plake had the same wood shop teacher that I had, dude.
Wow. I love that. Maybe that's the center point of all things great radness.
Yeah, mohawks and tattoos and drunk old guys. Plake's got his shit together. That guy's like an icon though these days. He hangs out down in Mammoth. I've hung out with Plake just a little bit. He might remember me, but like I got to meet him when I was hanging around Bones and doing the unparalleled stuff and South Shore Soldiers Camp with Jimmy Hallpuff. So it's cool, dude. Like that, I guess, like also touching back on one of your questions, it's like, that's what I want to leave behind with like these movies. And that's the end goal, is to like create a legacy for some young rad teleskier to come up, from this area or anywhere, because like I went out to Colorado and shot with like the Tele Colorado guys for their short film, Why Not? And dude, it's insane out there. Like just being around all the crazy 9-year-olds throwing triple corks on alpine skis, and then like seeing like all these other teleskiers on twin tip gear that you don't get to see as much out here in Tahoe. Like you see it, like there's, shout out to Paulo, like there's a young kid who's all teleskiing. There's a handful of them down here. Cade, shout out, all those kids follow me on Instagram. They're rad. Like they're getting it. They're on the ski team. They're doing the same stuff that I did, so hopefully this is what that creates,
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. And you deserve it. And I mean, I know you've already left a legacy, but I think it's cool that you're still pushing it. And honestly, even like I said, when you sent me that rough cut, I was watching it, and that was the first thing I thought, is I was like, how cool is it to have known you this long? And like, you say you're on the tail end, you're getting old, but See, that the thing is, the first thing I thought, I was like, man, he's just like matured so much as an athlete, you know? And that's like the first thing that popped in my head. I'm like, dude, your style, like your style, you've always had style, but like now it's like a million times stronger, you know, for
crazy.
For me to watch. And I'm like, you know, it's cool to see that. And like, I'm thinking, to me, I thought more you're in your prime was what I was thinking. So it's like, I don't know. And maybe to be able to to be what you're doing on telemark skis, it's like, I think the cool thing about how your approach to it's always been, at least this is my outside perspective, but you're not trying to prove anything on telemark skis against something else, snowboard, alpine, whatever. You're a telemark skier first, it seems like, and you're just pushing your own limits, and in doing so, you're setting this bar that we're talking about. You know, like my hope is like you're just gonna keep getting better, leave this legacy. Hopefully, and hopefully this is, or not hopefully, but I mean, it's like, it seems like if people could build off where you're at, you know, that's what I would love to see, you know, like telemark skiers building off what you're doing. And I can't even imagine where that would end up, you know, like.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, let's be real, when big corporate money gets involved in a sport, like in X Games with like Tanner and Simon Dumont, they really pushed it for alpine skiing, you know. You watch them compete in pipe and you're like, oh my God, what are they going to do this year, you know? Because, like, Red Bull was probably throwing those guys a lot of money, dude. Like, they bought houses. Those guys are pretty much retired. And just, like, Simon's kind of getting back into skiing. He took a break from it. But Tanner's always been, like, I've always kind of related to Tanner Hall because...
You're breaking up just a little bit.
You there?
Yeah, I'm here. You were just breaking up a little bit. I don't know if the reception.
No, yeah, I'm on my Wi-Fi calling. Sometimes it goes in and out. Everybody's watching Wales versus Denmark at the Euros right now.
Nice.
But anyway, yeah, no, I relate to Tanner Hall a lot because, like, you know, he was pushing it super hard. And I guess what I'm trying to get at is, like, when all that big money comes in, like, that's when people are like, yeah, my tolerance for risk is going to be here, right? Like, I'm going to go out and try that. And we saw that with like the Tele Big Air when Tiva and GoPro sponsored the Big Air. And I was at that, and like Andreas was stomping dub 10s and Chris Ewart was doing huge doubles, and like all the homies were like really throwing it down, you know?
Yeah, no, for sure. You know, and one thing that's interesting though is I think money can influence stuff, but I honestly think what I've seen is like the guys, money doesn't come first. Put it that way.
No, it doesn't.
Like, in order to, I always say, like, you know, people like the sponsored athlete thing, whatever you're doing, you know, to try to further your, you know, career, if you want to call it that, is you need resources. I always say it's like being a painter, you know, like if someone's giving you a, you know, canvas and paint, and you don't have to go get an extra job to buy the materials, you can focus on the craft. You can focus on the paint, you know, and,
totally.
You know, I think that's a lot of what sponsorship brings. Like you said, it offsets your worry to have to produce a short film or, you know, go travel somewhere. And like, I do agree that it helps further people, but I think the people that are going to impact the most, at least from what I've seen over the couple decades we've been doing it, is you gotta want to push it because you want to push it and you want to raise the bar. And it's not,
that's well said.
Like, it's, and the money will come. And I remember thinking back in the day, everyone's like, why isn't Red Bull sponsoring teleskiers? And I always remember thinking, maybe it could be that there's no, like, nobody saw it. Like you said, it's visibility. Mm-hmm. It also could have been that maybe people weren't as good. Maybe it wasn't going to get people to buy Red Bull, you know, like, yeah. And that's a hard pill to swallow because, of course, telemark skiers want to think they're badass, you know, but
yeah, totally.
But it might be, and I think that's what's cool is you've kept going even when maybe no one was watching. That's what most impresses me about you, dude, is like you kept going and you didn't quit. And you and I have seen a lot of people come and go. They get in, they think they're going to get exactly what we're talking about. They're like, I'm going to get sponsored, I'm going to do this and that, and it's the wrong reasons, and half the time those aren't the good people.
Right.
And then they leave like 2 years later and you never hear from them again, and that's unfortunate, you know. So it's a weird thing. So I think it's cool. You're doing, I know even if you didn't make anything or you didn't get any resources, you'd still be out crushing it, dude. That's what that's what makes you different. So
thanks, dude. Yeah, no, I think that really kind of like encapsulates everything that I was doing with this film, man. Like, you really kind of hit it on the head with that one for sure. I fully agree. And I mean, let's be real. Nobody's really getting that rich off of tele skiing quite yet, but like, I still have that hope in the back of my mind. Like, yeah, maybe that can be like a part-time job for my winter job, like full-time in the wintertime, you know, because I go out and I've put my life on the line all the time, putting out fire, cutting down huge trees, and like managing crews, you know. Like, I love my job at the Forest Service, and I get paid pretty well to do it, and that's my job, you know.
Yep.
I'm a tele skier second for a job. Yep. In reality. So yeah, like, if it's all how you look at it. It's all your perception, man. And like, I just love tele skiing so much, because like when I was 10 and I got my first freeheel set up, I just knew like that's what I was going to be doing, you know. Like, I was never going to turn back. It was no question at all. Just because like I said, like I like being unique and like standing out in that way. And so that's what tele skiing meant to me. And it was just cool that both my grandpa and my dad did it. So here I am now, you know, like carrying the torch and, you know, going out with like the Tele Colorado guys. That really reminded me of like that camaraderie and like the core feeling. And I guess it just really showcased, like, you guys will see the film if you check it out. Why not, when it comes out? But yeah, it just really showed like what the tele community is about and where tele skiing is at. And, you know, like, so what if we're not like at that same level as alpine skiers? Like you said, it's like we're just trying to lock in the tricks and the style and everything else the way that we want it to come off, right? Like, it's a totally different thing.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing is, I think, we keep kind of hovering back and forth, you know, like, you know, it always comes up in the conversation, like alpine versus tele and proving this and that. But I think we're both on the same page. It's like we're telemark skiers, you know, like that's the thing. So there's benchmarks within that, but you can be, like we said, we're both fans of old whiskey films and snowboarding. Like, I think it would be insane to say that we're not influenced by other sports around us. I mean, and culture, you know, because
right.
But to bring it in and have it in our own space, that's really cool. And I just had CJ on the podcast, man, and it was so fun talking to him about you, because I was like, you know, what's I was just thinking, man, it must be a trip. I asked him, I think I asked him that on the podcast. I was like, you know, just what it was like having you there. And I think the coolest part is our era, you, me, you know, there's a couple other guys that are still around, JT, like you bring, and you above all anybody else brings this wealth of knowledge and professionalism that's almost from like a bygone era, man. Like really, I always say we're like messengers from the past. And like, I loved hearing like how dialed in you were, and like you were teaching all those guys how to do stuff. Like, hey, here's when we film, you know, like here's what we need to look for in terms, you know, like, you know, whether it's warm up laps or what the light's like and all these little things. It's that attention to detail that I think is so clutch, dude, because it's an art, you know, and I don't know, going back to the point, like legacy doesn't come from sponsorship, or money, but legacy comes from someone who, in my opinion, is so focused on their craft like you are, and you probably don't even realize that. Like, maybe you do, but it's like I know.
Well,
for
that's
a fact
what Zen is, right? That's Zen right there, I guess. And like I'm slow, like you never perfect Zen. Like the Art of Zen, that book is like only less than 100 pages, and it's like the thickest book that you'll ever read.
No, that's a good. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, that's a great book. And so like you're always trying to obtain that, and I guess you're you're saying it. Like it's there, but sometimes I'm not even realizing that it's coming off that way, But it's just it's all from surrounding yourself with like-minded people and people who are like really good at what they do. Like Brian and Will, they are really good at what they do. Brian, especially with like the editing, he edited this whole film, and like there, like, let's be real. There is a somewhat formula that you got to follow with a ski film, right? Like, it doesn't always have to be ski porn, and it doesn't always have to be like some crazy action flick. But there's some finesse that goes into it that makes it unique. You know what I mean? So like that was my whole season, dude. Is like filming all season. Yeah. And looking for the bluebird days, looking for the good lighting, the shadows. And, I don't know everything with cameras or like editing software, but I know enough to like speak to that language, and like converse with those guys. Like, I think that's what college taught me a lot is like, how to manage a project. And also working at the Forest Service, being a crew leader too, is like, and an older brother, I've always like had like that kind of mentality of like, people don't like it. Like I can be bossy at times, and like, it's like, hey, but we got to get serious and handle this stuff, So like, I don't know. There's a fine line because it's still skiing and you want to have fun as much as possible. And yeah, that's where that fine line is walked, is like, all right, are we having fun or are we being too serious right here,
Yeah. Well, and that's a great point, man. And that's come up a lot over the years is kind of reminds me of what we were just talking about in terms of like, building your well of knowledge. That has to come first, and your passion for that has to come first, and
for sure.
I don't know, man. It's cool to see. Yeah. You're constantly, learning all these things that, you're bringing to the next generation. I think that's what's so cool. I was curious on the Why Not project, like being out there, how did it feel skiing with some of those younger guys that are really new to the scene? I don't know if that's the right word, but
yeah, I think they're new to like getting in front of a camera and putting their style out there and like having it come off the way they want to, but like I haven't seen that cut yet, but I saw those guys ski and I know we got some really cool shots, and it's going to be more like the lipstick films, like the early lipstick films, like where we were going out and like hitting like these features in the park and people are like, what, are you serious? And I think that's what CJ and the Telemark Colorado guys are trying to showcase, is like, nobody really, not nobody, but like not many people outside of tele skiing like know what is possible on a rail, on a park jump, So like, those are always lingering questions, man. So I guess like going out with those younger kids, like they're killing it, man. Like they're grabbing way better than I ever was at that age. Like the potential is there to get so much better. It's just, I got more years under my belt, and I like with age, you just pick your battles. Like those guys would be skiing all day, and I'm like, I'm going to get lunch, I'm going to get some water, and I need a stretch, or else I will blow out both my ACLs.
Yeah.
So it's different, it's a little bit different.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think that's so cool that you were able to be a part of that on top of doing Future Freeheel too. And yeah. Just it gets me excited that you were there and could like impart some of that knowledge on that, because I think I kind of lost my train of thought before, but it's like, you're talking about Brian and the editing and CJ and there's all these different pieces of, you're not, like you said earlier, like you're not just point a camera at me, there's all these elements that go into that. And I think that's truly what makes a great, ski film. And like you said, you shot an entire winter, and we're probably going to see 15 minutes of just banger clips. I mean, that's a lot of work, dude.
Oh, it's so much. Yeah. Cause it's so lofty, cause you'll watch alpine skiers. Like, I feel bad. Like, I followed Crazy Carl, the kid who won, King of Corbett's. He's like the sickest alpine skier, and I feed off that guy's style a lot. But, for instance, he went up to Alaska with another homie, and I don't think that they got many shots. They got skunked on the weather windows. Like, planning ski trips is so hard to do. Like, that is like one of the most difficult things. So when I see a crew who gets like a insane segment from like a ski trip, you're like, damn, they nailed it. Nice work,
Yeah.
So yeah, like shout out to Crazy Carl and all the pro skiers that have to deal with that. But that, like I said, that was the beauty of this film, is like it's all Lake Tahoe and Sierra Nevadas, man. It's sick.
I know what I forgot, because something came up earlier and I kind of lost my train of thought, but you were talking about the balance of like fun and too serious.
Mm-hmm.
And
yep.
I think that's a huge, honestly, I think my respect for you is so high, because you've been able to balance that. And a lot of people can't, a lot of people, especially if they're going to go, like we were just talking about, the amount of work that goes in to making 15 minutes, is.
Well, think about it. I mean, like watch an average alpine skier's segment, individual segment in a Matchstick movie. It's going to be like 3 to 4 minutes long.
Yeah, well, and that's kind of what I kind of want to say it, and I kind of don't, but it's like sometimes it's not fun in maybe the way someone would, like, if you just, and I guess this is what I'm trying to get at, is if you just want to be a rad telly skier, honestly, like, just go to your local spot and just be a rad telly skier.
Yeah.
Like, but if what you've done, and so many other people that have done movies, photos, you kind of have to have that, kind of has to be part of the quiver that you go out with. You grab your skis, you grab your boots and bindings and all your gear. But part of the kit, I think, for people like you, is you have to have the mentality of creation on. Like, you've got to be switched on, because there's safety involved, there's, both getting to a zone, how you're skiing it, how you manage slough in the backcountry, how much you're waiting for light, knowing when to call it off and go home. I mean, I think what's funny is that you are someone who enjoys that, and I think a lot of people miss that point. And that's what we were saying, like, there's kind of this high attrition rate for people that get in and they're like, I'm gonna be rad, I'm gonna be in movies, I'm gonna be sponsored. And it's like, guess what, you have to have that special switch inside your brain that you're gonna go out and sit around and you know how to do it. And I think that's what's made you last, like I guess so. Well, you have fun doing that, like, it's
totally
like certain people are built like that, where and honestly, if you get the best, I think you're a unique case, because you're the best at what you do and you want to capture it. And that is so hard to find. And I think, I think that's one, why you're still around, and two, why 100%. I think, I honestly, I think you're at the top of your game, bro. Like, I think when you talk about other people seeing you, I think you've done it the right way, because you're a master of your craft, and you keep getting better, and you're in your prime. And like, I really can't wait. And I hope some of those opportunities pop up, dude. Cause
thanks, dude.
Yeah. There's so much more. It's like, I could talk forever, dude, and just cheer you on, but it's like,
hell yeah, dude.
It's there's just a lot more that goes into it than people realize in terms of what fun. Maybe it's just how you define fun. I guess that's the point I'm trying to make.
It kind of is, man. I mean, like, you know, and there's different levels of that too, man. Cause like, you know, in short, like shout out to my buddy Josh Dyack and like Bernie Rosso and like a couple of my other older snowmobile friends who like know when to press the chill button and know when to go hard. I mean, like, to me, it feels like Dyack goes hard all the time. Like his mentality, he's a different breed of human, and I know where my limits are. And when I go out with guys like that, I kind of know where theirs are, but I know I'm not going to go there with them. Let's put it that way. So like, it goes back to what I'm saying. Like, you surround yourself with like-minded individuals who are down to progress themselves, and those guys, Bernie just turned 40 and he's crushing it in Mammoth and Sonora. Like, he's the guru, like, of the backcountry and snowmobile skiing. And Josh is right there. He's like probably one of the top 5 best big mountain skiers in the world, and he's I don't know how old Josh is. He's like 38 or something, you know, like 37. Sorry if I miscalculated your age there, Josh. But yeah, he's up there, dude. Like, you wouldn't know that. Like, he skis like he's 22 and puts it all out there, and that's insane to be around. And that energy is just like, it's a whole nother universe, dude. And I don't ride with those guys all the time, but like, I keep that in the back of my mind. I'm like, dude, I'm only 33 and Bernie's freaking 40 and just crushing it harder than ever, you know? So yeah, I agree with you, dude.
Yeah, no one when to switch it on. And that kind of brings to mind the why not stuff too, because I think when you said it, it totally made sense. Cause I remember talking to CJ and it was like, when you show up, you know exactly when to turn it on. And when you turn it on, you produce the results that you're envisioning. And that is a really hard skill. Cause it's not just like,
it's so hard.
It's not like, especially if you're doing tricks or skiing a line and you've got all these other factors going on. I mean, that in and of itself, I guess, is the craft we're talking about. It's not like, you can't just go balls to the wall like 100% of the time and expect to be healthy. Like, it's just not going to work. And totally. You've got to kind of know, like you said, you know, grabs. And I mean, there's all these things that go into like making a photo, making a video clip. Like, these are a lot of things that like, the attention to detail, man. I love it because
cool.
I think it's great. One thing before we start wrapping up, tell me about TikTok. You're famous on TikTok, bro.
Yeah. So TikTok, it kind of was a result of the whole quarantine thing, honestly. Like, you know, YouTube, I had a YouTube account within the first year that YouTube was a thing. And I'm a firm believer in like being at the forefront of those kind of trends, especially with telemark skiing. So when Instagram came out, you know, like, I was a little late to the game, but I was there before Mark Zuckerberg bought it with Facebook and totally changed it up. Like, that platform was super sick before Facebook bought it. Like, it was strictly photos. Your page was like totally random, lots of art stuff, lots of cool, trendy stuff that like you would never be exposed to before. And then when Facebook did its Facebook thing, it just like became very ad centric and commercialized and not what the original creation was intended for. So I thought, you know, like, when I see TikTok, like, I'm like, okay, what's going on here? And I get on there, I'm like, this is insane, dude. Like, what the hell is going on with this? It's all video. You'll see the most random, like, in your For You page, and it's just like the easiest, most mindless way to burn off 2 hours of your day, especially during quarantine when you're bored as hell, just staying at home. But besides that fact, like, I see these platforms as a way to expose the world to telemark skiing. So I'm like, well, shit, my handle's going to be called Telemark. And right off the bat, like, you know, it's kind of random, and just I was throwing random videos up on there, and then like I went out to Fountain Youth, which is this gnarly pond scam that we hit up in the summer, and like all TikTok is pairing a trendy song or a sound with a video clip and having like good hashtags. And like somehow the way those algorithms work, you don't have to have 1 million followers to get on somebody's For You page. You just got to have something that jives and trends well. So like I put up some like random hip hop song to this long pond skim video that I got, and that thing overnight like got like like in 24 hours it was like at 100,000 views, and then next thing I know, like it's at like 1.5 million views, and I'm like, oh my god, that's insane. Like, how does that work? And
you are doing a nose butter on water, dude. I mean,
well, that was a different one.
Oh, that was a different one?
Yeah, it was just like this long. Yeah, you got to check it out.
Okay.
And people get freaked out because like they're like, oh, China's gonna hack you. Da da da. Like TikTok's office is in LA, dude. Like the people who
I'm not on TikTok because I'm like 42 years old, dude. So
I get that, but like that's the whole stigma of it, right? So like I'm 33, I'm way too old to be on TikTok in some people's minds.
Apparently
but, like,
not. Millions of people are watching your stuff, so I mean, go for
well,
it.
I don't have 1 million followers, but like that's the thing. Like, you know, like I almost got like 5,000 followers. Like my buddy Kyle Smain, like he's sponsored by GoPro, and like that's how like all these things work. Like with these algorithms and stuff, like it has to come off right. And like that kid just blew up overnight. Now he's got like 60,000 followers, and like just it's insane. And like I'm getting some trickle from that, like being in like it's all geographical locations, I'm pretty sure, with like all these algorithms, right? So like you don't even have to ski the craziest line at Squaw, but since you hashtag Squaw Valley, like the people at Instagram go there on their weekends and have Squaw passes, so they're gonna make those kind of videos blow up and stuff. So like anything around Tahoe or ski resorts, or like that's how I think all that stuff works. But also content is king. So like you got to have something that's sick and trendy for people to react to it. Yeah. But yeah, man, like with the TikTok thing, like it's just like Instagram. Like I think Instagram, my followers on there are way more like loyal and diehard and been there for a long time, versus like TikTok, where it's like you should read, like some of these videos get like thousands and thousands of comments on my TikTok page, and they're like, what? Like some people are like, why are his bindings coming up? Or like, yeah, like there's so many kids who love telemark skiing on that platform. It's insane. I can't even, it's more than any other platform. Like, and these are kids we're talking about.
Yeah.
Like,
which is important.
21 and under.
Yeah. Which is important. Like you said, you're getting it in front of all these people. I think it's cool. It's cool that you're kind of like the oldest of the school, but you've embraced all these different outlets to like get you in front of people, man. And I think that's so rad. That's awesome.
It's a different marketing strategy than like running an ad or like, you know, or getting something published in a magazine. Like that's old school style, but like this is like, it's kind of a new frontier in terms of like getting your stuff out there. And I don't know, like it's kind of risk-taking entrepreneurial ideals, you know, like that's how things become big, is because you get in at the forefront. Like imagine buying stocks in a company that's like really small, you know, like who knew what Instacart was until like the pandemic hit and everybody didn't want to go to the grocery store, and now you got this app that's going to have somebody deliver food to your doorstep. Like that's that kind of forward thinking stuff that I'm talking about, you know?
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. And my hope is that, we can get the, you know, the kids that are seeing your stuff and everybody else's, like, they have a way to get access to doing it. I think that's the big thing is like,
well, that's why you're there. And, I'll get DMs all the time. Like, hey, how do I get a setup? Yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, yeah, Freeheel Life, dude.
Yep.
Like, this is the way to do it.
Gracias. Yeah, no, that's it's connecting all these dots, dude. And I love that, man. Dude, it's so good to catch up, dude. I love everything you're doing, man, and keep at it. Like, yeah, if you're ever feeling old, just call me, dude.
I'm not.
I'll shoot you like a little hey, dude, you're killing it. Don't have your depressive I'm getting old feeling, because you're doing
daily affirmation.
Yeah, exactly. So before we sign off, do we know where people are going to be able to see? How are you getting Future Freeheel 2 out?
First, I'm gonna team up with the Telemark Colorado guys. We're gonna do a tele-centric video premiere. Probably travel around throughout the West Coast and see where the interest is. We might even make something happen out on the East Coast internationally, because there's been a lot of tele festivals out there that have reached out for past films, and we'll see where that goes. But first, we're gonna do the premieres, probably like early November to December. I'm not too sure how that's all lining out yet, but then it'll be up on YouTube, and it'll be out on a bunch of different outlets.
Okay, sweet. And Instagram, Dizzleberry.
At Dizzleberry, and then TikTok
at
Telemark, or just type in my name.
Love it, dude. Dude, so good to catch up. I'm glad we got to rap about all that stuff, and yeah, I hope you have a great season. Let's reconnect in the winter, and yeah, keep us in the loop with what you got going on, man.
100%. Hell yeah, Josh. One love, dude.
Yeah, for sure. Much love, brother. Talk to you soon.
Cheers, buddy.
Later. Yes. So much yes about all of that. Ty is such a good dude. I've known him for so long, like I always talk about, and I'm just on a personal level, I'm super proud of him. He's done some amazing stuff, and it's so cool to see that he's still around and just crushing it. And it's just cool. It's cool to, and I'm sure it's like that in anything in life, right? Like when you've known someone for such a long time, and you knew their aspirations many, many years ago, and you're able to actually see a lot of that come to fruition. You can see like the young version, and then you can see someone who's a little bit older, more mature, has stacks of experience. And that's Ty for me. He's a true professional and someone very, very unique in the world of snow sports. And I really appreciated him taking the time. And I cannot wait to see the final version of Future Freeheel 2. I have seen a little bit of it, as we probably alluded to in the podcast. He's crushing it, and it'll be good to see him in that. And why not? From Telemark, Colorado. It's going to be a good time in the fall. So start laying out your party pants, people, because when a premiere comes near you, be ready to go, because we all know Telemark skiers like to get down, so to speak. Pun intended. Ha ha ha. All right, so you guys are awesome out there. Thank you for listening to this. As always, every week, I am trying to deeply convince you that where you should buy your Telemark gear is none other than the best Telemark shop on the planet, Freeheel Life. You can find us at freeheellife.com for anything from parts, used parts, bindings, boots, lifestyle, skis, boots, bindings, all that. I think I said those a couple times. That's my subliminal messaging. freeheellife.com, and start gearing up. Yeah, towards the end, we're only a couple months away from starting to get restocked. So start saving in that piggy bank, getting ready so you can get your gear dialed in for another season of shred. For those of you that want to read about equipment and culture and all that good stuff, telemarkskier.com. We've got free content. We've got premium content. The premium content requires you to become a subscriber. And that helps us drive new content. So we're putting out stuff weekly right now. We're going to be putting out plenty of stuff every week once the winter comes. We would love for you to be a part of that and help us keep it fired up. And we are the only ones out there doing anything close to this exclusive content about Telemark and what's going on. Like I said, anything from culture to gear, everything in between. And we've got the best guy at the helm, Craig Dostie, the gear guru himself. So check it out, telemarksgear.com, part of the Freeheel Life family. We would love to see you over there. If you want to talk directly to moi, podcast@freeheellife.com shoots over to me. I would love to hear what's going on in your world, what you're interested in, maybe podcasts that you'd like to hear in the future, feedback, or just say hello, say what up. I would love to hear from you. Thank you for listening, my fellow protectors of the turn. It's so crazy that we're halfway through the summer and heading to the winter, but I cannot wait. I hope you're as stoked as I am. And until next Monday, spread Telemark always. See you later.